Hey, Alex, welcome to the show.
All right. Yeah, Jason, thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us who you are, what you do.
All right. You got it. Man, it's a pleasure. I read your book a number of years ago, so it's really fun to be on the call. So my name's Alex Polamero. I founded Ninestone Partners 7 years ago. A little bit about me and our firm. I've been working with CRMs for 20 years. So I started as an Oracle super user. Back then, there were 300,000 contacts that we were nurturing through Oracle CRM, and I had 100 frontline salespeople to train on Oracle CRM. Years later, about 12, 13 years ago, I became a Marketo certified expert and was running Marketo across a big real estate development firm. So they're a $1 billion company, many divisions, and had a chance to speak at Marketo's conferences and go to LinkedIn and talk to them about automated marketing. And then 7 years ago, I started Ninestone Partners. And gosh, by then, our team were partners with HubSpot, Salesforce, Adobe, Microsoft Dynamics. I had been a partner with Infusionsoft, which is now Keep, SharpSpring, and we've done tons of others, Zoho, Pipedrive, you name it. We've used most of them. So I think there's kind of two things. And so where we really focus is middle of the funnel, building the marketing and sales automation systems that nurture all of these prospects to close at scale. So we help companies scale.
Very cool.
Yeah, Jason, there's a few things that make us kind of a little different than other folks. Most people in our industry don't know all these systems and the nuances of them and which one to use in which industry and why, to help companies really grow quickly. And then the other one is I started my agency. I kind of thought I was a competitor of all these other agencies because we also can build websites and do paid advertising. But after a number of years, I realized, no, we're much more a collaborator. Now we work with all these agencies who build websites, who run paid advertising, who do SEO and social, and we just take our piece that we're really good at in the middle of the funnel.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a few years back, you got to a point where you sold your agency.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of cover, I want to tease it a little bit because you bought your agency back. So everyone, very interesting story. And I think we're going to learn a lot from it. So I'm going to tease you, but where were you in the point of your agency to decide to sell it?
Yeah. So I had started Ninestone. We were 2 years in, started working for another agency that was much larger. So at the time we had 2 full-time employees, me and one other, and had a number of contractors, and we were running automated solutions on Marketo for a bigger agency with 25 full-time people. And man, you've probably heard this many times, right? I know you have. I was just super overwhelmed and burnout, right? With just work. I had too much work.
Burned out from what? What was the bottleneck, or what was, burning you out?
Yeah, and I've been reading a book again that I've read before in the past by Alan Weiss. It's called $1 Million Consulting. So one of the things, and I'll share this because related to your question. He basically says you can't be a solo practitioner, someone who just, the job is to extract all the money out of your consulting firm to create a lifestyle for you, right? And a business owner with employees. Like you can't have one foot in both of those worlds at the same time. You gotta choose. Are you going to build a business with employees that scales and you sell? Or are you going to have kind of a solopreneur or a consulting firm? And I lived with one foot in each. So I wanted to take all the money out of our business. So I wasn't hiring people, right? Taking all the money out, taking on more projects, and becoming completely overwhelmed with the amount of work and the deliverables that had to be due all the time. So I was working weekends, early mornings, and late, and I had young kids. So, and I was afraid of hiring people, afraid I wouldn't find good people, afraid I wouldn't make enough money to take care of my family if things went sideways, that kind of thing. But we quickly plateaued. Couldn't take on any more clients with just me. And I couldn't bring on additional resources that went outside of me. So I was feeling I was feeling just stressed with too much work.
Yeah, I think a lot of us hit that, and we kind of, we give much more priority to the money than the time, right? Like I bet if you're looking back now going, man, that was a silly decision. I know when I was at that point, I thought it was a silly decision. I was like, man, I'm going to pay people to do what I'm doing. So I have more time. I go hike a mountain or ride the mountain bike, or I'm getting older, pickleball, like whatever it is, right?
I'm playing football.
Or,
Break through it, yeah.
I'm addicted. But I started 3 weeks ago, and I'm blasting everybody, and they're like, "When'd you start?" I'm like, 3 weeks ago, and they're like, "Oh shit."
Nice. Yeah, go after it. But you're spot on. I mean, in that same book I was reading, Alan Weiss says you can always make another dollar, but you can't get another minute.
Yeah.
And it took me a number of years. I mean, this is said so many times, and I knew it from the beginning that time was more important, like than money. Like wealth is actually made of disposable time in a way, however you want to say it. Right. So it took me a number of years to really realize that and go, oh my gosh, I need to prioritize the time with my own employees, time with my family, time with relationships outside of work. That time made business much better. I don't know if you've experienced that.
Well, yeah. I mean, like my schedules, I work Tuesday through Thursday, 9 to 2. That's it. Right. That's my optimal time. I'm not saying everyone do that, but I think everyone needs to kind of find their fighting weight, which is the time you're going to put in your business when you're the most optimal. And that was mine. And I really don't break it around that. So
how'd that impact though? That thinking, how did that shift in your thinking impact performance?
I mean, I got more efficient because, right? Because I was like, here are the times I'm going to work. I'm always thinking of the business and client and members and clients and that kind of stuff. Right. So that's one thing I've always been jealous of, like airline pilots. I just became a pilot. And, when an airline pilot lands the plane and he shuts down everything, he doesn't think about work anymore. He's shut off. Like, I'm so jealous of those people. But then on the other hand, like the grass is always greener on the side you water. On the other hand, I'm like, they're capped off on earning potential. They're only just landing and taking off and landing a plane. Like, I have so much more freedom. Like, I make my own schedule, right? Like, and so, when I started figuring that out, I was like, okay, like, let's just create this. And then I do that with our team members too. And I go, you guys do that. What's your optimal time? Like, we don't have a set time. And I always tell my team too, I will always be available if you need me. I think that's the big thing too. Like, I thought I had to work, especially at the agency, I had to work from like 8 in the morning to 8 at night every single day. And I was like, I have to outwork everybody. I need to out hustle. It was stupid.
I thought the same thing, this idea that I had to work harder than everybody. Working hard meant being busy, filling up space. And that's where I was when I sold my agency 2 years in. It was this sense of, I didn't have any empty space, free time. Now, years later, I realized that the free time to think is actually the most productive time for me.
Yeah.
Right. For moving the agency forward. But when I was in a place of only delivering results for clients, not enough free time or empty space for just to fill with time with my daughter or son or my wife, I just felt overwhelmed. And when another agency came along and said, "Ooh, hey, we'd love for you to come and work for us and be an equity partner, we'll buy you out," I was like, oh, okay, you do all the stuff. You do accounting and you invoice everybody and, I'll just run sales.
Yep. And so you don't have to go through exact numbers or anything, but was there any cash? Was there there was obviously equity. Was there an earnout? Like, walk us
Yeah.
through.
So it was our deal was pretty simple. It was like I would get an equity deal in this larger firm and a set salary, a minimum set salary with an upside potential on new business that I brought in.
Okay. So no cash up front, just equity and salary.
Yep, you got
Okay.
it. And then
equity,
essentially commissions or profit, profit on the equity. Right.
okay. And then I presume the amount of equity was based on what they valued your agency at that time.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. And so how was it the first week?
Oh, the first week was awesome, man.
When did it start turning, and why did it start turning bad?
I think it started maybe writing was maybe the writing started to be on the wall like 4 to 6 months in when I was on vacation. I was on a snowboarding trip, backcountry snowboarding trip in Canada with a bunch of buddies. First time I'd ever done that. And, so pumped. I waited my whole life to do something like that. And every morning I was trying to knock out technical stuff for a pre-Oscar event, which was like really important for our client. And I just was like, oh my gosh, now I have to wear my sales hat and an equity partner hat. And I'm still in the technical operations hat because nobody knows how to do this stuff that I know so well. And it was a Marketo project, which is like an enterprise version of HubSpot, mid to enterprise for clients who don't know Marketo or, listeners. And I was like, dang, this is a half vacation. I mean, the snow was awesome, but working when everybody else is chilling and drinking their coffee, so, it's a challenge. And then I took my eye off the ball, which meant that one partner was responsible for dealing with all the finances of the organization. Another partner was responsible for all the operations and delivery of work, and I was responsible for sales. And that's how we split up or divvied up the work. About 8 months into it, we found that, and I really liked the partners that I was working with, good people, honest people, but we found that our processes around invoicing and everything had just completely fallen apart. We hadn't invoiced clients in 6 months. So we didn't have enough money to pay 25 people. I'm sure you've heard this before, right? Like, where's the cash for payroll? Only to find that, of 3 partners, the person with the best credit was me. But because we didn't all have as good a credit, it made getting a loan to cover payroll really difficult. So Jason, we had to take a loan, and I had to sign for it because I had the best credit in this deal. The loan was 35% day of. Who takes the loan like 35% in order to pay 25 people?
And you were personally liable?
And here's the kicker. I said, fine, we'll cover this as long as I'm not personally liable. I got the paperwork at 4 p.m. It had to be signed by 5 p.m. in order to pay people the next morning. And the first line said, you are personally liable for this entire loan. So what do you do? I went to my wife and said, like, are we ready to take this money out of our bank account and savings to cover the whole team? And that was a really stressful decision. We did it. We actually decided to go for it to take care of our team. But boy, that kind of made me go, oh, I don't think we have all our ducks in a row.
Yeah. So what happened after that?
So after a series of experiences kind of like that, we just sat down and had a heart-to-heart. And I just said, there's some things about how we run the business where we just don't agree together. It's not that we didn't like each other as people. It was business things like how to pay people. Here's another great example. My partners had come from an environment where you pay vendors late. You draw it out as much as you can, right? So if somebody does the work for you, they complete the work, great. Pay them 90 days out. Pay them 180 days out if you can. Right. I came from an environment where I pay people as our vendors and our contractors and partners as fast as possible, because when I need them, they will jump on it. They'll call me on a weekend because I pay them right away.
Yeah.
So we just didn't agree on some of these things. So we had a heart to heart, and I said, I don't think it's working. And they said, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's working that well. And I said, how about I just buy back essentially my equity? I'll take back my clients. Any new clients I got over the last year, you keep them. And I'll just and I get the name Ninestone back. And they said, okay. So they were really very generous. Those situations could be ugly with attorneys and this and that. We didn't have to go through all that. We just kind of let each other out. But I didn't keep any of the work from the last year, big clients that I had gotten. I had clients that were not happy with me selling the company and left contracts. Right? I had clients that didn't get the value out of the work with the new company that they thought they would get. So essentially, I restarted Ninestone at 50% the business we had going in just a year prior.
Now, if you didn't get money up front, what kind of money did you give them money to buy out, or you just said here's my equity value, and how'd you structure that?
Yeah, really simple. I just said, okay, see all this equity, you get it back, right? This equity, you get the equity back. All these clients I brought in, you keep them. That part of the book of business, right? I'm going to take these clients, provided I'm going to call all of these clients, and provided they want to go with me to restart Ninestone, then I'll take them. If they don't want to go, you take them, right?
Oh.
And we just did it like that. Any all of the stuff that we created together in that year, basically the other agency got all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Slide decks and sales assets and all this stuff.
Where is your agency now compared to where it was the day you sold?
Oh yeah. Now we're 5 times the size of where we were.
Where are they now?
I don't know where they are, to be honest. I'm not, we didn't really keep in close contact, not out of animosity, but more okay, let's just give each other some space. Right. Mm-hmm. But we also went right into COVID. This was pre-COVID. And some of the work this other agency was doing, it was on experiential work with big media companies and stuff on the Emmys and things. And that stuff got crushed. And Ninestone, we don't do that. We partner with people who do that kind of work, but we run the data behind the scenes. If there's a big activation, right, then we want to capture people's data and help, content go to all the right folks. But we're not building big events and trade shows and all these kind of experiences. So we, in one way, we got a lot of flexibility back, right, and a lot of freedom. I also a lot of humility out of that. Oh my gosh, I actually don't know what I'm doing. At the time, that's how I felt, man. I don't know what I'm doing. I gotta read your book.
No one knows what they're doing.
Right?
Honestly, if you really look at it, it's just everyone's just because there's so many different variables in everything. It's everything we do, every decision we do is an experiment. It's about how we react to it. So when I find people are yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing, I'm you're full of shit.
What, so I started my company, and 2 brothers were serial entrepreneurs, .com folks out of Silicon Valley area. And they're on their 3rd startup. And since they sold that, they've exited and they're retired mid-50s. But when I started my firm, I went to them and said, hey, I'm worried about starting a firm. I'm afraid that we're going to fail. I don't really know what I'm doing. And they said, oh, well, in our world of technology, if you start a firm and you bomb, you totally fail. You'll just go get a job and make more money, because now people go, hey, you failed. You tried something new. You have some humility. You have some experience with the world of being an entrepreneur. Great. We'll pay you more. Yeah. So you got nothing to lose is what they told me. And that's kind of pushed me over the edge.
So from everything that's happened, from selling the agency to buying it back, what was the big takeaway for you that you've learned?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. I'd say a few takeaways. One, I think up front, it's very helpful to decide what type of organization people want. Do they want that? I'm going to be a consultant. I don't want to hire anybody. I'm going to just have contractors or do I want to build a firm that I'm going to sell for a multiplier of revenue or, profit or EBITDA? What do I want to do? Because the pathway is different, I think, for that decision. And the people you surround yourself with are going to be a little bit different in terms of mentality. Like, and the systems that we create are going to be totally different for those different approaches. It took me a while to decide what I wanted to do. The second thing that has been really helpful is surrounding myself with people that are experts. I don't have to do it all. I could be very good at, our firm can be very good at our niche. And then we can have people like you, Jason, or people in paid advertising or SEO or brand strategy. And we can collaborate with these people, software developers of complex API stuff. And we're all helping each other get more business. We're making the pie bigger rather than fighting over a tiny little slices of our pie, that scarcity model. We're making the pie bigger. So this sense that I got to be like a lone wolf is just out the door, man. I need to be with a pack. It creates so much more joy.
I mean, you can go faster alone, but you can go farther with a lot of people around you, right? Like, and
Yeah.
a lot of times people are like, no, I want to do it all by myself. I'm like, all right, like, go do it. But it's a lonely road. And
yeah, you're right. I mean, what are the types of folks for you that you surround yourself with that help your business be successful?
yeah, I always try to be the dumbest person in the room. Like, I always laugh that I go to my team. I'm like, I would never let myself into our mastermind. Like when I look back at when I was running the agency, because I was the lone wolf then. Like, I wanted to take you out. Like, if you said you had an agency, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like, I'm gonna take you out at the legs.
Yeah.
And then like after I sold and I just started helping my old competitors because I was like, they're not a threat anymore. I sold. I don't have to worry about anything. Then I'm like, damn, this is fun. And like, I learned a lot from them too. Right. And I was like, man, and when I sold at that time, looking back, I felt like I was at a ceiling. Right. And I always tell everybody, and I've been telling people on the podcast, there's kind of these 3 W's. Where do you want to go? Who do you need to hire to get you there? And who do you need to become? And I felt like I didn't realize the last 2 because I was like, the agency's maxed out because that was my growth. But then when I look back now, I'm like, man, I've grown so much since then. I could have grown 10 times that now. And then I would hit a ceiling, but then I'd have to say, well, who do I need to become? Like I was asking on the mastermind this morning, we have these, the one themed call today was around scale. And I asked everyone, I said, what's the biggest bottleneck that you're holding your agency back on? Right. And it made everybody think. And some people were like, well, the bottleneck is me around sales. And then we started talking more deeper about that and be like, well, if you're doing sales and then you're also dipping your toe in operations, you're sabotaging yourself when operations starts getting max because you don't want to under deliver. And then other people are like, well, everyone's doing everything. I don't know what my role is. And we talked about that, right? Like, so you got to kind of constantly keep growing. And I tell all the members too, I'm like, look, man, I'm still trying to figure things out. Like, you think I figured it all out? Like, I'm ahead of you right now, but my goal is to get you ahead, but I'm constantly moving. Like, I'm a moving target.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and I want you to catch me, but like, if I stayed stagnant, and that's how I was at the agency, I just stayed stagnant and I was letting people catch me. So that's what I would do different now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot of really great insights there. one of the people that you have on your podcast, Gino Wickman, and you recently had him on there, really has helped me. So like reading EOS, Traction, and some of these others. The third thing I would do is I'm really the visionary leader, as Gino would say. Mm-hmm. And I needed an integrator, the nuts and bolts person. And as soon as I hired that integrator, I could go do sales. And it was the first time that we really grew substantially because I was in my sweet spot. But my sweet spot was not creating processes, even though the irony is we're a business that creates processes.
You're forced to, right? Yeah.
But standard operating procedures and all these things that help us.
It doesn't get us excited.
It doesn't pump me up like that. But I now have an integrator that does. She is awesome at that. So, realizing that whoa, you need good people, like you said. Who do you need to hire? Right? Who do you need to bring on this journey with you? And the humility to say, I love that your mastermind group, you got people in there who have the humility to say, I'm the bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that takes some self-awareness. I feel that I asked my integrator, what is the biggest challenge with operations? And she said, you, Alex, get out of the way, right? Eject.
Yeah. And you should always be bumping heads with your operator because they're different, but they should have the same core values that you share. Right. And it seems like, from your story, your partners at that time did not share the same values you guys did, right? From even how they pay the contractors, right? Or the process, those kind of things. So, it's, you just got to find people that believe in the same things you believe in that are totally opposite than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't want another you. That is just chaos.
And it is hard. I found that you got to kind of work on some projects together. Let's say you and I jump on a podcast and we synergize, right? Well, that doesn't mean when rubber meets the road and there's stress at work or in client relationships that we're not going to think differently about solving the problems. So those values kind of come out under the heat,
Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Alex. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
Oh yeah. Well, let's see. I think, yeah. Well, let me turn it around back on you. If I asked you that question on your podcast, what would you want to share?
About what we'd not cover?
Yeah. If you're I had this moment to be on, your listeners better than I do. What do we need to share from this story that will help them encourage people, give them something to think about?
I think it goes back to what I was saying is no one has it figured out and everything's an experiment. And the worst case scenario is you start over. I treat growing a business like Monopoly or a chess game that my son always beats me in chess now. It drives me absolutely fucking crazy. I swear he's reading a book and watching videos and he says he's not. And I think he's going to tell me that on my deathbed. But, it's always a game that you're going to win and lose. But if you're trying to, not lose, you're going to lose. If you're trying to always win, you're going to be disappointed. So if you just go at it of kind of, hey, I'm going to try this. It's going to be an experiment. And let's see what it works. And then react to the action that you did. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's the fun part about it. Because especially if you have an agency and if you don't like solving problems and you're wanting to sell your agency because of problems, well, you probably should sell your agency. But everything's a problem. But there's always a solution to it. You just got to figure it out. That's the exciting part. Maybe not in the moment all the time. That's because you're
well,
man, got another problem.
That's so true. Well, maybe then what you could ask me is just how can we help other agencies?
Sure.
So I'll answer that. I'd love for folks to reach out to me. That relationship and just sharing resources in a way that is let's find win-win for both of us. those have been really fruitful relationships for me over the last 3 years. And sometimes we get a lot of business mutually, but sometimes we don't. We just create really great relationships. And those are the people that I have a beer with when I cruise into Colorado or wherever, right? And there's a sense of camaraderie. We're like on this journey together, and I can ask them some questions. They can ask me some questions. I can share, I don't know, some HubSpot setup, right?
Yeah.
So I think just, being open, I and our team, we're open to those kinds of relationships.
That's great.
That we're really out there to support people in their success. And when we do that, it all seems to come around and work out.
Well, that's a good attitude. That's an attitude I did not share a long time ago, but I've hence changed. And that's why we created our mastermind. Our community is so amazing. People can connect and be on the journey together, cry on each other's shoulders, because you're going to go through some tough times, and you might as well go through people that understand it versus people that have like no idea what type of business you are. They just like when I was doing the agency for so many years, my whole family was like, "Hey, can you fix my printer?" Like, I don't know anything about hardware. And that would just drive me absolutely crazy. I always wanted to be like, "Yeah, I'll fix your printer," kind of like Office Space, and just the hardware. No. Exactly. But if everyone listening, if you guys want to be in a really very selective, amazing community where people are humble, they like to share, they're growing very fast, make sure you guys go check out Agency Mastery and see if we can, we'll have a conversation and go from there. And until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.